And her and Cars were both good as generally, they did very well, she played great in the middle of the back, even in the year behind. But at the bottom, she was right in the middle of the back. They did pick it up. Well, I haven't done it about it. Only to play on the top, but you get the point of the report. So they said this is the very
Were there people on Zoom? Okay, because if there aren't, then I would prefer not to use it, but
Yeah.
cool.
And
Okay.
we'll report it to you just
Oh, that's okay.
for everything, so.
Yeah.
No. No, you know, I didn't. You should go up there. Maybe you know, I think it'd be very exciting to get you. My husband, totally very high.
Hey, Bethany, I'm Sean Corby.
Oh, I know who you are.
Spoken. I just wanted to thank you for the conversation.
Oh, for sure. How did it
So-
go?
Good. We're still,
Yeah.
we had so much other stuff going on
Totally.
in life, but I'm like, appreciated your takes on everything.
Yeah. Oh, have more questions, let me know.
I will.
It's been the best thing we've done, for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
You knew it. I'm just like,
I know it's been, and I'll talk, I'm not gonna say the company, but I'll talk a little bit about today and just things that have really worked well for us.
I was excited to hear that you're profit first too,
Yeah.
because I love Mike McCall.
Yes,
I always tell people that he is the single best author reading his own book on Audible. Have you ever heard it?
Yep.
Hands down, the best
Yeah.
performance I've ever heard, an author reading their own stuff.
and Kenny is a huge fan of his, and Ben is actually how I learned about it.
Okay.
So, and then Tom Wheelwright.
Wheelwright?
Yeah,
The tax one?
he's the tax guy, he wrote tax pretty well.
Okay.
And I don't think you should normally be engaged by a book about taxes. I was super engaged. It brings in a lot to speak to us.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, the year that my his first full year in real estate, she made like $100,000. That same year, I paid him $14,000. I made way more than she did. I mean, triple. So,
Wow.
so most of my team.
I was just gonna say, we just signed up with them. Let's go.
Incredible.
Zach, or who do you work with?
I'm with Swamp because I've been with them so long.
Okay.
Yeah, the last time I met with them, it was so funny because I don't know if you know their head accountant. And
Do you know Jason Gorman?
yes,
I think so.
but I probably
He's BBD is.
yeah. So I was sitting with Slumber. So, oh, did we not ever tell you? Yeah. And he's like, they're too intimidated to tell you. Like, why? No, because about things that you expect me to understand, and I'm just like, if you want to cost this property, I don't know, Slumber, you tell me, should I? So
It's awesome. Yeah, we feel like it's a good, we feel like you get what you pay for.
totally.
We're like, Okay, we actually ran this down. I said that to Katie, because I think we knew you were at the time. It was like Todd, Jason Gorman was like,
Yeah.
these people that are really. I love BBD.
Like 500 years, and I was like, you would be paying that in taxes and other
Right.
things if you weren't paying them.
Right.
And that was just all you know.
Mhm.
Was shop, bookkeeping, payroll. I mean, even 2 of my agents now have themselves on it. And that gets me excited.
Yeah.
Now they're buying. Investment properties and other things, so.
Right. That's awesome. Are you going to be talking a little bit more? Because I have some questions, but I don't want to ask questions that you're going to already go.
No, it's fine.
Like when you treat your personal production, because you pay yourself as an agent, right? Because I just started doing that like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Gosh, and I got that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Running through the same allocation percentages then, or you do it differently?
I do, so of my 50%, I actually do pretty much the 10, 20, 30, 40. But I don't. I have to go back and look.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I pay myself 50 on every of my own transaction.
Yep.
And I still do the 20. Profit is usually more than 10. Mine truck payment, I pay through my client's dinner and luxurious and I want to put on the other P&L. Otherwise, that rest of my one we're running last month we were 38% profit, but our goal is to be at 32.
That's great.
There are plenty of teams. Like
Really.
I know it's awesome. And to get to 40. And I don't think it'll be this year. But this has kind of been our now I'm finally recruiting. Like for the last 2 years we haven't recruited. So and it's kind of at the point where it's like if we want
It's not scalable.
and it's actually, to be frank, it's a little because too many people are pregnant. So
They at any time.
But it's like
Life discovery, yeah. So
yeah, my number one agent and my director of ops, which I knew was gonna happen at the same time. Like I just kind of had this gut feeling, and it's great. Yeah, I literally had. I want her to my director of ops to maybe leave, and I was like, "Here's my goal. 14 weeks, okay, but we need to do this. And here's all the stuff you have to have done before you go." So, have another VA hired and trained, and yep, figure it out.
yep, one step at a time.
I actually told them, I go, I'm going on my own baby moon before your babies get here. And they started laughing. I'm like, no, I'm dead serious. Like, when the 2 of you are out, I'm not going to get time off. So I'm going to have my own baby moon.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I've got more questions, Bill.
Cool.
I know
Yeah.
you've got more to say.
Feel free, honestly. So, which I know things changed, but I was planning on being interviewed, so I dipped into some of my material. So if feel free to ask questions. Because I mean, I could talk about this forever, but I also don't want it to feel like whiplash.
Right, and some of the stuff I'd ask is technical, because I would be talking,
Yeah,
allocation
that's fine.
percentages, basic,
Yeah,
how you would adjust those to get the 4 months, and then do you change it and all that stuff.
yeah.
So,
Cool.
thank you so much.
Yeah. I'll even do some of that, Sean, even if it doesn't apply to everybody, just because I think what helped me with wealth building and rooms with people that I'm like, I'm not there yet, but hearing it times has made me more confident than when I ready to do some of that stuff.
Well, and teaching it too makes you better too.
all the time. Yeah, the first couple of times I did stuff, I was like, who am I? Like, I'm still paying this. But it's
Oh,
like,
right.
but it was. And that time of my life, I get messages from realtors. Like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, it's real. It's super
Well,
real.
it's the biggest, that's my favorite bull bond ever. Experience at someone else's outside. You think
Totally.
someone else has it all going on and
No.
you have no idea what their agony is behind the scenes.
There. Business that sit down with for coffee or cocktail, and I mean, I know multiple people that have bankruptcies, and like, there's no I have no judgment towards that, but it's like, huh, I would have never thought,
Right.
and it's like, well, yeah, it's not even my income, like, it shouldn't matter, but I've been I told Ben, we had a call, and I said, I had a team up north trying to recruit.
Brainerd guy?
No, not Ryan, Mercy.
Okay.
In Duluth.
Novak?
Yep,
Okay.
love her.
Yep.
And I called Ben because I've known Ben forever. It's like, I don't know, why would you? And I was like, well, I feel like I haven't grown to be big enough, like, qualify. And he goes, have I ever told you that? No? He goes, okay, great. So when are you gonna get ahead and like actually have a conversation? Well, I guess we are right now. And I signed in like 3 weeks. Like, it was the fastest process.
Talking to him was like, it's like talking to somebody that's got an X-ray and they can and you can see everything. And he's like, well, then if you're gonna do this, you should do this, this, and this. Otherwise, don't do that. Do this, and this.
Yeah.
Just cuts to the
Growth leader I talked
oh my gosh, Lydia Eager,
to. Okay.
but she's no longer.
Yep, so were you assigned to Donnie?
I'm not sure.
I'll text him. Donnie's who I work the closest with, but
Okay.
if you're interested in re-engaging, I think he's great.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Do you know if they're doing that? Is he doing the Bell Town again? How come?
Was a loss leader for us. And can't talk about it here, but there's, we just purchased our third dance there. So that's doubling down on big stuff right now that he's like, I have capacity to try to find.
Your fish to fry. Right?
So what they're doing instead, which I'm working on with Via, if you're familiar with Via
Yeah,
Williams.
Williams, yeah.
Mini built house throughout the nation, so I'm gonna help lead the one here. So we'll do it in the Twin Cities, which will attract South Dakota, Wisconsin, and Iowa, because they're the biggest metro area. We have partners in Green Bay, Eau Claire. We just launched in Iowa, like first agent point. Air Catch is in North Dakota, and then South Dakota, Ryan, Hanson. So yeah, we'll do. I'm just trying to figure out the right time.
Okay.
So it'll probably be October.
Okay.
Which I'm kind of hoping to figure out a way to do it with like business planning, because business planning tools are incredible. And I kind of teased that last year because I run the so I've started posting little pop-up events for that, and okay, that was April last year. We got great feedback, so I'm just trying to figure out like how to incorporate it all.
Okay.
And that too will be on the second day with the mastermind. Yeah. I'm not sure, Rachel, are you by to start or?
No, I'm like, what?
That I can just start talking. I just wasn't sure if we need our tech guy here.
We just please do. Slides or anything you need.
No, we're just gonna use a lot of flip chart pages. Okay. Are there people on Zoom? There are. Okay, so okay, if there aren't, then I'm not. Cool, awesome. All right. So what we'll do is actually, you guys should have a printout in front of you. Which if I would have known my face was gonna be on it, I would have asked them to put something else on there, but that's all right. So set yourself up for financial success. These are 10 of kind of, in my opinion, the top bullet points. Some of them we talked about already in the team meeting, which I believe everyone here was at that, so we won't go back through some of them, but we'll just start with number 1, which I think is actually the most important thing and why we start here, is determine your survive and your thrive income goals. So earlier we talked about when planning out the profit first model, figuring out of the owner's compensation, what that number needs to be. And on this one, you know, we figured out the owner's comp was $3,000. If that's not enough for you to live on every month, like how many transactions do you then need to do per month to get to the metric that you can pay your bills? Does everyone in here, question for you, does everyone in here track your net worth? Couple head shakes, yeah, okay. That is not on here, but I would actually put that as part of point 1. And here's why. Sometimes I think we don't know where we're going, or we don't have a thrive number, we don't have an ultimate goal. And for us to be able to make the kind of money we want, to not just give, but to give, we need to have a number that's beyond just survival. Can you agree? Does that make sense? Cool. So one of the things, and I'm actually happy to share this spreadsheet with anyone, but one of the things that I do with my team at the beginning of the year, actually at the end of the year or the next year, is we sit down and this is the simple question I ask: how much money do you want to make next year? And let's just say, and I think a common answer from people is, and I remember being in the state of my career, like, I don't want to break six figures. Like, if I hit 6 figures, I would be super happy. And so let's just, for today, let's just use that as an example. So if your income is $100,000, how much of that, so when we're doing this exercise, we're going to say this is pre-tax, okay? So how much of that will you actually need? Let's just say 75, okay? So is 75 enough for you to live on? That's a personal question that you have to answer. The key to that is actually building and looking at how much have you been spending? What has your life been? So sometimes my agents will even say, or even myself, to be frank, is I'll say, gosh, I don't even know what I'm spending. One of my favorite exercises to do, and I'm going to just keep throwing different stuff at you under these different bullet points. So I wish we had more room for you to write on them, maybe flip it over, but is we do the highlighter exercise. So you print off 3 months of bank statements, credit card statements, all your statements. And I want you to go through with 3 colors on your statements. Color number 1 is green. This is non-optional expenses. Like, these have to happen. Give me some ideas. Give me some ideas on what could be non-optional expenses. Mortgage, love it. What else? Food. Okay.
Yes.
Say that again, Sean.
Yes.
Yes. Say that again. Internet, yes. The phone bill, like what are those non-optional expenses? Then you're gonna go in with yellow. These are gonna be optional, but definitely preferred. I would say this is eating out. Okay? If I can eat at home, I would prefer to eat out once or twice a week, right? Okay. What would be another like optional but preferred? How about your Netflix account? Okay, things like that. Then you're gonna go through with a pink highlighter. Pink is, I have paid my freaking Peloton membership for 6 months, and that bike serves as the ground, right? Like, I'm actually not doing what I say I'm going to do with this expense, so it needs to go. So pink is cut it today, got it. And by doing this, you're gonna be able to figure out what your like actual living expenses should be, or could be, or what you've been spending, and how much you can save. Now, a couple of thoughts for you. None of us are really on fixed incomes unless you're in here and your operations on a team. But for most of us, our incomes aren't fixed. So until you can get your reserves up to put yourself on a fixed payroll, I would really try to keep your living expenses as low as possible, and we'll talk about this more in a minute, to get to the point where you have those reserves. Because when you can get those reserves, then you can start to play with what is the most comfortable monthly budget for you and put yourself on that page. Does that make sense? So that highlighter exercise is something a lot of people on my team and that I do personally at least once a year. The other thing I'll share that I do once a year is I call my different accounts and I tell them that I lost my debit or credit card on all of them. The reason I do it is every single time I find expenses that are on auto pay that I no longer want to have. And so when I get triggered, hey, we need a card, I'm like, gosh, I can't even remember I have that anymore. The other place people's expenses are hiding, what they don't realize, is in their phone subscription. So if you search subscription in your phone, go through and see, is there an app you bought, even if it's just once a year, that you're like, I no longer want to pay that expense. Step 2, you're going to create a business plan that supports those goals. So once you have a clearer idea of what your personal and business budget needs to be, so let's actually talk through a couple of these things. I want to break out, because I think this is important. We're going to break out what are personal versus business expenses. So I'm going to ask you guys, and I'd love for you to answer. Is your phone bill a personal or business expense? It is. I would say it's a business expense. What's going to happen is when you do your taxes, they're going to ask what percentage of it are you using for business. But I would pay my phone bill from a business debit card or credit card, however you choose to do it. That's where those owners, the operating expenses is paying this bill. Okay. I'm just going to put percentage so you remember. Your home internet. I would do the exact same thing if you have an office at home. Your office is also, so if you have a designated office area in your home, that can also be a tax write-off when you go to file your taxes. I actually will never own a home that I don't have a formal office in for that reason. So I would say your internet is. Okay. Who can think of other expenses that should be business, but maybe people are paying on their personal accounts? Office supplies. Office supplies for sure. What else? Photos, signs. Yeah, photos, signs. One of the reasons I think this is just so important to set this account up is then you don't have to go back and try to track. Shoot, did I pay for that on my personal account or my business account? Do I need to make sure I reimburse my personal account from my business account? Like, it just gets so messy. I do this down to, like, if we open my wallet right now, it's comical. Because I do everything through my credit union and Affinity, their color's purple. I have all these purple debit cards. And I have a different debit card for every property address of my rentals. Because when I go to Home Depot and I need to buy a new blind because my handyman's going to stop by and put one in, I want to swipe the appropriate debit card for that. I take a picture of it and I send it to an email account. This is just years of my messy chaos that I've created a system around. I send it to an email account literally called bookkeeping@bethanynelsongroup.com, and my bookkeeper logs into that, and it makes my life so much easier. And now I don't have to track down receipts in my car that I have spilled my Starbucks on. So just a couple of tips with running it that way. Number 3, one thing I just want to touch on. I know we're talking wealth building, but here's the thing. If you're in real estate, if you're not making money, you don't have any money to invest. Do you agree? Cool. Okay. So do all of you know, in order to hit your income goals, what activities you need to do? Are you clear on that? Yes and no. Okay, I'm gonna quick run you through an exercise that I believe, this is not the economic model, but we're just gonna run through this quick. So Sean, can I pick on you? Okay, so I'm gonna pretend Sean is an agent on my team. We've sat down, we're doing business planning for next year, okay? So we're talking 2025. So Sean, we work with like $100,000 goal.
Yeah.
Cool, okay. So Sean and I have a conversation. I go, Sean, what is your income goal for next year?
100,000.
$100,000. Awesome. Now that's pre-tax, so you'll probably walk away with 75,000. Is that okay? Okay, awesome. So Sean, based on your average sales price, okay? So we're gonna all get our calculators out, because we're gonna work on this together. So Sean, what is your average sales price? You can give me your real one.
385.
385. Okay, awesome. So Sean's sales price is 385. So we're gonna take 385. And Sean, now your business is split pretty evenly between buyers and sellers. So would it be okay with you if we use just an average commission of 3%? Great, okay. So 3% of 385 is 11,000, I already forgot the number, 11,550. Now, Sean is on our team, and so he's on a 50-50 split. So of that, Sean's making 5,775. Okay. Where we go next is Sean's goal for GCI was $100,000. So we're gonna take $100,000 and we're gonna divide it by his average take-home commission. So 575. So Sean has to do 17.3 transactions. Now, Sean, do you agree that we can't sell a third of the house? Okay, great. So we're gonna round up. We're gonna say it's 18. Sean, have you sold 18 houses before? Awesome. Do you remember what it took for you to sell 18 houses in 1 year?
Average effort.
Okay, average. Great. Love that. So let's create a game plan on where at a minimum you do 18. Because Sean, I'm curious, would you know how to spend an extra $50,000 if you made an extra $50,000? Okay, what would you spend it on?
I'll invest it.
Okay, invest all of it?
Probably most of it.
Okay, so pretend he didn't say all of it, okay? Let's say he said, here are the common things I hear from people, is usually they're like, gosh, I have some debt I would love to pay off. Amazing. So let's just say he said he wants to pay off $10,000 in debt. What's another thing you think people say often for investing? You know what, I would actually like to beef up my savings account. Okay, great. We're gonna beef up your savings. Let's just say that that's another $10,000. And let's just say that Sean's like, you know what, my wife has been begging me for a trip, and we really need to get away. Okay, awesome. Where would you go? Sean wants to go to Hawaii. Actually, his wife wants to go to Hawaii, okay? Well, I don't know, I've never been to Hawaii, but I'm pretty confident it's not cheap. So what should we allocate for Hawaii? Like 7,000? I don't even know. Let's just pretend we're gonna say 7. Okay, so then we're gonna go on a vacation for 7,000. Okay. And then we have 23,000 left over that he's gonna invest, okay? Everybody tracking so far? Here's where then I get even more specific with people on my team. Hey, Sean, I'm curious, do you have health insurance? Do you have an HSA account?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what an HSA account is? Okay, great. That part. HSA stands for Health Savings Account. HSA is the only triple tax that there is out there for investing. Here's what it is. It is the money that you put into an HSA is pre-tax, you're not taxed on that money. What it grows, if you choose to invest it, is not taxed. And when you take it out, it's not taxed. Every other tool, you're paying Uncle Sam somehow, some way. So this is like the first thing I actually tell people to invest in. And maybe this is gonna sound a little doomsday, but the day is going to come when, I speak for myself, when I need help tools, right? When I'm not doing so great and I want to take money out to invest in my physical health. This is the best way to do it when you are in retirement or older or whatever. So I don't remember what it is for a married couple. For a single person, it just went up. We're just gonna use for this case, we're just gonna use 7,000 for a married couple. So of Sean's $23,000 that he's gonna invest 7,000 into an HSA. Okay. So we now have 16,000 left over. Now, depending on your income, you can invest in different IRA options. Okay. There's a traditional IRA. Anybody know what that is or how to explain it? You are taxed when, on a traditional, you are taxed when you take it out. On a Roth, you are taxed when you put it in. Now the whole goal, so they're both IRAs, traditional IRA, Roth IRA. Now the whole goal is your investment to grow, correct? So personally, I would rather pay the taxes on the lower amount that I'm gonna put in, correct? Versus the higher amount once I want to take it out. Now, here's the thing. The IRS has acknowledged that sometimes some people make too much money, so they created a threshold of when you can actually invest in your Roth. You might make too much money to invest in a Roth. So they say, there is actually, again, I know, but find a great accountant. There's a way you can do what's called a backdoor Roth IRA. And it's basically you invest in a traditional and then they're gonna convert it to a Roth, okay? We're just gonna pretend that you're gonna do that, Sean, for $5,000. Again, find your own board of directors. Okay. So we now have $10,000 left. Would you agree that we have left in our investing budget? Okay, so Sean, we've got 10 grand left. Now we really maxed out these other two tools. Obviously, we're in real estate. So it'd be really great if you could buy more real estate. Another sidebar. Did you know that the way we can depreciate our real estate investments is a higher percentage than your clients? When you are a realtor and you own investment property, the way, I'm not going to get into that because it's a whole big deep conversation, but the short version is your tax deductions when you are a realtor, because you carry that license, are significantly better than the average person. Like if you serve a client and help them buy or sell investment properties, they cannot do what you're doing. Okay. So, okay, Sean, we've got 10,000 left. Let's just say you wanted to buy an investment property. What would it be? Like, what would you buy? A duplex. Okay, why a duplex?
Two doors under one roof.
Love it. Do you think your wife would move?
She'd move?
Do you think she'd move?
Potentially.
Okay. If you said, hey, honey, you only have to do this for 1 year. And here's how it's going to set us up for financial success. Do you think she'd do it? So when you buy a duplex, how much do you need to put down? Good question. If you're owner occupying it, how much do you need to put down? 10. You can owner occupy it and put down and do FHA, so you would only be doing 3.5%. It doesn't matter. You can only carry one FHA mortgage, period. As a person, you can only carry one FHA. Okay. If let's say you've already used your FHA option, so that's not an option, and you're going to move into it as your primary residence, conventional, you can put 5% down. Now, there's a limit on that, but for most duplexes, you can still put 5% down. That is a rule that just changed as of last November. So this is something that I'm sharing with you, one, for you to use for yourself, but two, you should be using with your clients as well. Here's the key part about that. You can actually do it over and over again, as long as you keep moving into them. You can have 10 mortgages on your own personal name before you have to go use commercial lending. So you have a lot of options for moving. Now, it is not uncommon that people in my life will say, Bethany, I'm not moving. Like a lot of people on my team, they're like, we're not moving. But house hacking, which we're going to dig into more, house hacking is when you make the decision to go purchase a property, sacrifice for a year, live in it, and then you can go either move back into your previous home, or you could, maybe then you got the itch and you're going to want to go do it again. And you can do this arguably every year. Most people do it every 2 to 3. Any questions on the house hack?
1 year, because I thought for tax 2.
Nope, that's only if you're selling. So the 1 year is if you're occupying, and the reason I say 1 is because you can't go get the next mortgage unless you've usually been there for about a year, because then the lender is going to be like, this is fishy, why are you moving again? So they like to see that you're there for 1 year. I am. Anything. So I have a lot of clients that house hack single family homes too. I personally house hack duplexes, but you can house hack single family as well. Yep. Yeah. I teach investor seminars. It's actually a big part of how we get leads for our team. And we have, if we weren't telling people this is an option, every year we'd probably sell 10 to 12 more properties, because we have people show up to our investor seminars that already own a home and they were thinking they were going to sell that and then something different. And they're like, wait, why would I sell? I can just go do this. Which actually, since this is kind of a small setting, it's way more fun to go off script. So with that, for real estate, for sales, a common objection right now is, well, they are handcuffed to their current interest rate. I would love to move, I just can't. Yes, I would love to move, but I can't. Awesome. Why? Well, my interest rate is 3%. Oh my gosh, I wouldn't want you to get rid of that property either. But you're having your third kid and you're in a 2-bedroom house, you're busting the seams, you have no storage, like you create the pain, you heighten the pain of what they're experiencing, and then you say, hey, if I could show you how to pull a home equity line of credit against your current home, and then go move into your next home and turn your first home into a rental, would that be worth it to you? Yeah, how would I do that? And then you take them down that road. Now, one thing I will say to that, not a lender, I joke with my clients, I go, listen, I'm only licensed in real estate. I just know enough to be dangerous and everything else, okay? So that's my disclosure. But with lending, another thing to know, if you are going to advise someone to do this, they need to pull their home equity line of credit before they go get pre-approved for the next loan. Here's why. When they go get pre-approved for the next loan, that lender is going to say, why did you just do an application for a home equity line of credit? When you do the home equity line of credit, you need to say it's your primary residence to get a 90-10 split on it. They will lend up to 90% if it is your primary residence. They are going to ask you and your client, why are you pulling it? In my opinion, it's none of their business. So I say, which is not, I think, an ethically wrong response, to say, I want to have the money available just in case I come across a really great real estate investment, right? So have them close on the HELOC, then go apply for their next mortgage. But they need to close on the HELOC to not create red flags for either side. So just something I've seen other people make mistakes of. Okay, going down our sheet here. Oh, sorry, going back to Sean, actually. Here's what I then do. And this is where I'm going to encourage a lot of you in the room that aren't on teams or don't have a team yet, is this is the game you should be playing with yourself. Like, if I made an extra 50, what would I do with it? If we don't know what we're gonna do with the money, we won't make it. It's actually proven. Like, you will continue to hit these same financial ceilings in your career and in your business and in your personal life until you know exactly where you're gonna spend it. I cannot tell you how long I've been trying to hit over $1 million in revenue for my business in real estate. And I kept hitting 880, 925. Like, it was just like, I was so defeated and I was so frustrated. Like, you have got to be kidding me. And you know what? When I finally sat down and I wrote out exactly what would happen in my life when I broke through that, guess what? The next year, 1088686. Right? Now I know our business where it's gonna go when we hit 2.5. Like, now it's like so clear to me. And when it becomes clear, you can start dreaming of all these things and then planning them and holding yourself accountable to them. And so by the time I get to this conversation with my team members, I then say, so Sean, let's say your wife really doesn't want to move. What if you made an extra $75,000 that then you could pay down 10 grand of debt, save 10, go on your vacation, invest in your HSA, invest in your IRA, and buy an investment property. And he's like, yeah, that works for me. Now Sean has, what did we just do? We just took Sean from going, I have a goal of making $100,000 to now he has a goal of making $175,000. Now the reason this exercise is powerful is because usually we are going to put ourselves at our survive limit. We have to surround ourselves with people that are going to show us these other ways of what we do with the money. Now, to be super clear, this vacation is really important. You have to have fun with your money too. I'm not saying go out and spend it like crazy, but do wise financial things, but make sure you enjoy your money along the way as well. Any thoughts on this exercise? This is what the survive versus thrive means. So if you're struggling and you're going, Bethany, like, I really want to make 100,000, but I've never done that before. Why would I ever set a goal of making 175? My guess is you aren't clear enough on why 175 could be important to you, which I would hope after today we can get clear on that. And then we don't know how to do it. So Sean, would you do me a favor and take $175,000 and divide it by 5,775? Well, remember, Sean has to sell 18 houses to get to his income goal of 100. So how many houses do you need to get to 175?
30.3, rounded up to 31.
31, okay. So here are the sources of where your business is gonna come from. Okay, Sean, do you have a database? How many people are roughly in your database? 5,000. Okay, let's pretend that's not what he said. Let's say he said 200, okay? And the reason I say that is I don't want anyone in here to be intimidated by a number that big. So number one is going to be Sean's sphere. I am going to share with you throughout how we do things on our team. If you do them differently, that's amazing. I'm just sharing what has worked for us. So Sean's sphere is going to be the first piece of pie for his business that we're going to focus on. In order for someone to join our team, they actually cannot start day one until they have a sphere list of 200 names and 1 point of contact information per name, period. If they show up with 199, I'm still saying high five, you're great, but you're not joining our team. Only because if we make commitments at the beginning and we don't honor them to ourselves, then we're just not taking this serious enough. You absolutely have 200 names between your cell phone, your email, your Facebook, your Instagram, like you do. So 200 names. Secondly, Sean's plugged into an office like Keller Williams here, where even if he doesn't have a property to hold open, there are plenty of opportunities for him to hold open houses for other people. So if someone said to me, Bethany, I'm behind on my goals this year, and I still want to make a lot of money by the end of the year, awesome. Then you should be doing 2 open houses at a minimum a week. So those are those. Now we're gonna go to the one that most people cringe. Prospecting. Now here's where I'm gonna make some of you feel a little bit better. I'm not a cold caller. Now relax. But I am a ninja when it comes to adding people to our database. So I tell people when they partner with us, I don't care how you do this, but we are gonna find a way that you do it at a high level, and we're gonna track it and we're gonna hold it accountable. Because with their sphere, so we're gonna go back to Sean. So with Sean's sphere, if he joins the team and he has 200 names, I can say, great, you need to contact your sphere. Minimum standard on our team is 10 contacts a day. That's like so low, but that's what it is. Well, that means it's gonna take him 4 weeks to get through his sphere, okay? Then he's gonna do 2 open houses a week. That's 8 open houses in a month. This is gonna look very different depending on who you are and where your strengths are and what you enjoy. I'll share some examples. One, I loved networking events when I first got into real estate. I was part of the Young Professionals of the Twin Cities. That was not realtor specific, so there were people from all industries there. Now, one of my team members, Kimberly, she is a part of what's called NAVO. It's a women's small business owners network. She's plugged in there. She is constantly going to networking events, building relationships, and adding these people to her sphere, okay? Alyssa on my team. She has 2 kids, Beckham and Asher, and she is plugged in. She lives in Chaska. She's super plugged into Chaska Mom Facebook. Year to date, she's at $8.5 million in sold volume. And I think 2.5 of that is from Facebook, from people tagging her or people she's met that then she's added back to her sphere. When I got started in real estate, I started hosting homebuyer seminars. Now that's not my passion, but that's Kylie's passion for our team. So Kylie hosts a monthly homebuyer seminar, both in person and virtual. That's for prospecting. My point in sharing all these different options for you is prospecting is not just cold calling. It's finding ways that you are strategically adding people back to your database and then staying in touch with them. Any questions on this so far? Great.
Is there a number for the prospecting?
It's going to depend on what it is. So like Kylie's metrics are different than Alyssa's, because for Kylie, it's all about how many people can we get to the homebuyer seminar. We know our conversion ratio at the homebuyer seminars is over 80%. If we get their butts in the seat, we say if we get cheeks in the seat, like they'll sign. Then for Alyssa, we track her direct messages and her comments. So she's constantly commenting, and then she does host events. So that's all tracked. Kimberly is transitioning just from doing just NAVO to now she actually became a divorce specialist. So she is now hosting divorce seminars. So it depends on like where, and here's the thing, is what gets me excited as a team lead. I don't have the capacity or the energy to work with all 3 of those different type of lead levers. And it's them working in their strengths so they actually do it. If I just call, if I hire someone to the team and I set the standard of you have to circle prospects and they don't want to do it, they're just going to leave or they're not going to be successful. So, but I do actually have 2 phone ninjas on our team, Barry and Danny, who both love being on the phone. So, okay. These are the things you can control. Okay, so these are the activities you control. Now this side, Sean, for you that runs the team. So on this side, this is where I tell agents, you handle this, I'm gonna handle this. But for you guys, it would just be, these are things that, quite frankly, are gonna be a byproduct of marketing versus prospecting. This is prospecting based. What we're gonna talk about here is gonna be marketing based. So one is gonna be listing leads. I believe if marketed correctly, every listing should bring in at least 2 more pieces of business. We are not perfect on this, but we're getting better. I think right now we're at like 1.6. If we take, all of our metrics. So this is gonna look like, is your signage big enough? Are you, like we do canvas the neighborhoods around our listing. I'm saying canvas, not door knock, because most of my people won't knock on the door, but they'll at least put a door hanger on. We then invite them to a neighborhood open house. It is neighborhood specific for the first 30 minutes. So it says neighbor only open this time to this time, public open this time to this. We then run, we then run internet ads, which what's cool about this for you guys is like, this is nothing crazy. This isn't me doing anything that's like, we don't spend money on pay per click. We don't spend money on Zillow. We literally run Facebook ads for our listings, which you guys can do through command. So there's no secret to that. And then the last one, we call on our team ISA. So this would be harder if you're not on the team, but I'm at the point in my career, and I'm sure Sean and others in the room are, where sometimes your phone just rings. And it's, hey, my cousin twice removed wants to buy a house. I no longer take those buyers. I actually pass them on to one of my team members. And so these are like appointment setting leads that we give our agent. So even if you're not on a team, these are the 3 things you control through prospecting. These are the 2 that are going to be more marketing based. Any other? ISA stands for Inside Sales Agent. Yeah.
What does that person do for you?
That person, it's me right now. So my phone will ring and people will say, or sometimes it's a text, and people will say, hey, my so-and-so, it's someone I don't know, is interested in buying a house. And I no longer work with buyers like that, so then I pass them on to the team.
You just do your sphere and you just do the list.
Correct. Yep. I do still work some buyers from my sphere. This year I'll sell 40 homes, and they're all people I know. And I would say 27 of them will be listing side. It's just too hard. It's too hard to like help people and run a team. And I'm driving to Zimmerman tonight for a walkthrough, and like, that's the last thing I want to be doing, but my childhood youth pastor, and I sold him and his wife a house. So it is what it is. Okay. Any other questions on this? I know we're kind of running tight on time. On this sheet, we talked about a lot of this already this morning. So creating an LLC, open a bank account for the LLC, run a profit first model we talked about. One last thing I want to talk about, which was I had written economic model up here. Who knows an economic model? Like, what does that mean? We kind of did part of it with Sean around his goals, okay? Here's what happens. A lot of people who run their business where profit just shows up at the end of the month, or it doesn't show up, meaning they're like, okay, well, my revenue comes in. So revenue is your gross commission income, right? My revenue comes in. So revenue. Then the next thing that happens is what's called cost of sale. So your cost of sale is that you pay to Keller Williams. Your cost of sale is also the split you pay to your team lead if you're on a team. Guess what? Guess what my cost of sale is? It's the split I pay to the agents on the team. So you're gonna have your cost of sale, and then minus revenue, or I'm sorry, minus expenses. We're just gonna do this. Minus expenses. And then profit is just what happens at the end. I'm going to challenge people that you literally build your expenses and everything else around protecting your profit. So I shared with Sean that our business will do, I'm just for the sake of the room, I'll just say 30% profit this year. So for me to make sure that we get that 30% profit, I'm gonna work the math backwards. So I'm gonna say Okay, I want 30% profit, which means that my expenses and cost of sale can only equal what? 70%. Well, if I am paying my agents 50%, that means my expenses have to stay below 20. Does that make sense? I see a lot of people work it the other way. They're like, profit is happenstance. I've had to make tough decisions. I've let people go. I've cut expenses in lots of weird areas, but I protect this because here's the reality that I'll just be like really transparent about. If your business isn't profitable and you're working 60 hours a week, you will resent the business and you will quit. And I've been at stages in my life where I've been like, yeah, I need great money, but I freaking hate my life. And I'm done doing that. So there's nothing to be ashamed of in your business being profitable. And my team knows this. Like, they want me to be successful too. They see I'm the first in the office and last out, right? So when you're building your business model, make sure you figure out what that profit number is. And then your cost of sales. So I said the cost of sales is also the split I have my agents on. If you are a single agent, guess what that cost of sale is? It's you. If you are not paying yourself 50% minimum on every deal, which let's go back to this. Now the math is going to start to get funky for some of you, but here's the short version. Profit 10%, owner's comp 40, that's 50. That makes sense? So protect your cost of sale, even down to, I'll just tell you how mine runs right now. On a personal transaction that I close, our market center pays my business account for the entire team that I run revenue and expenses through, pays that 50%. They pay a separate LLC that is just me, 50%. And then I run the profit first model at different percentages out of the other one.
With your income.
So I'll draw this out because I know Sean was asking about this too. So here's how it works for me. Is I'm going to close a transaction. For easy math, we're just going to say it's $10,000. I have two LLCs. They're literally named something to that effect. Each of them are going to get $5,000. This one is the one that my team P&L runs out of. Agents on my team, their 50% goes into that account. This one, when I do this model, it looks different than this, but I still kind of do it because the salary I pay myself is here. Then what happens is all of this revenue will then be minus expenses equals profit. The reason I don't have cost of sale here is because that was already taken out. What gets deposited here is the team split. And then this is for me what runs at a 30% profit margin.
Where do your taxes come in? The other side and your
This one, because when I do my taxes, these both are LLCs, S corps, whatever. So they're going to both show up separately on my personal taxes, but these each will have two different business filings because they're separate. And then it, then I have another LLC for my rental properties and etc. So all of those then at the end of the year, those get filed, show up on my personal. What's important about this is there's a lot of team leads that bankroll their teams. And I've been doing that until a couple years ago, where I was throwing all of it into this same account. And there were months where my expenses were so high, I wasn't paying myself. It's like, oh, well, guess we're just not profitable this month. So, and that was my ego talking. So if I really want to hold my business accountable, which if you think about this, I'm making 80%. Well, it's less than that, but I'm making 50 of my own and then 30 on the profit. This is a very profitable way to run a business.
50 on your own deals and 30 on your team.
Team. Yep.
But your team pays your expenses.
Yep. So when your business is doing over $1 million in revenue and you're making 30% of that plus half of your own personal sales. And again, the reason I didn't want to do this at first is because my expenses were so high. When I took my 50% out, it got ugly. Like I had to cut the fat when I started paying myself the 50% split.
Yeah, so you're actually putting in 5,000 into your team account to cover your expenses.
100%. Yep.
And then people are putting money into the team expenses.
Yep. The rest of the stuff on the sheet is all stuff we covered this morning. I'm totally happy to just hang out, answer questions as long as you guys have them. But this is kind of the main meat of what I wanted to cover today. I'm also one thing I thought I'd have time for was to run you through like how I house hack and how those percentages work. So if you want me to do that, I'm happy to do it, but no pressure either. So any questions on any of this stuff we've already covered?
When you said about, you pay yourself when your business.
Yeah.
You make, or do you do taxes, that's right?
So how this works is anything that's an LLC, they actually your accountant will do, like literally I do a business tax filing for each of them. So they're all separate. Business filing, business filing. Then what happens is at the end of those filings, whatever money I made from them is then gonna show up in my personal return.
Oh, because you have two businesses, even though it's one business you've created too.
It's yeah, and for me, it's actually 3 because my rentals are a completely separate one. Does that make sense? So those returns are separate and then they all feed onto my personal return. Any other questions?
How much do you pay for,
All those expenses? Mine is higher because I have so many different accounts. But I would say like team members on my team, theirs are about 6,500 for all of those services combined. They pay bookkeeping, a lot of my team members now pay themselves on a salary as well. So for a bookkeeper, payroll, taxes done, both their business and personal, it's about $6,500 a year. But I promise you, they save that in what they pay in taxes significantly.
yeah, I was, this year I was about to get, I got kind of scared, like, I would have to pay payroll and all that. Ready to do that.
Well, and the thing that I think a lot of people misunderstand is I have LLCs that file as S corporations. Like you don't have to go open an S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is that once you file, sometimes called, you have to have a payroll keeper for that.
Do you, where I would draw the line is if you make over $75,000 a year or not. If you do, you are leaving money on the table with the IRS by not doing
That's the way it comes.
it. Yeah. 75,000 doesn't that work. Okay, I'll run you guys through one of my duplex scenarios. If you need to leave, I am not offended at all. Okay, so I'll run you through my first one. And this is the stuff I get excited about. So all the properties I've ever purchased, I found off market. It hasn't been intentional, but it's just kind of how it showed up. I'm a big believer in creating vision boards and putting out there what you want. And once I figured out, so I shared earlier, like I had my own tax trauma. Once I got that figured out and got myself on an IRS payment plan, which to be clear, you can still buy real estate even if you have a tax lien against you. So as long as you're on a payment plan and you're making those payment plans, you can still do that. So I had a gal named Beth call me and she said, Bethany, I found this duplex. I think you'd be really interested. They are marketing it at $360,000. So I'm gonna say this is their like marketing sales price. And sidebar, I had a white duplex on my vision board. I go drive up and what do you know, it's a white duplex in Hopkins side by side. Walk through it. I'm like, okay, I want this property. I am pre-approved for an FHA mortgage because my credit wasn't great because of my tax mistakes. But I am pre-approved for an FHA mortgage at 3.5%. Now, here's some things that are important to know for yourself, but also for your client. When you are using an FHA mortgage, what is the cap on how much you can ask for in seller paid closing costs? 6%. So I knew I could get up to 6% in seller paid closing costs. And their payout to a buyer's agent was 2.5. So even though it was off market, they were offering a payout. Okay. So here's how, I don't remember the exact numbers without them in front of me and I didn't bring those. Here's what I do know. 360,000, 3.5% on 360. Figure out what this is. Actually, I'm gonna work it off a different number. So here's what I did. Because I believe that most sellers just care what they're walking away from the closing table with. They actually don't care how you bake things into the deal. So here's what I did, is I offered them, because these numbers I do remember off the top of my head. Offered 385. I used the payout, but I asked them to increase it to 3%. Okay, so I asked them to increase the payout by 0.5. The reason that is, your payout can go towards your down payment. Seller paid closing costs cannot. Okay, so then I was only responsible for bringing 0.5% of the sales price for the down payment. Does that make sense? So on 385, that's $1,925. Okay, so payout of 3%, and then I did seller paid closing costs. So whatever this payout difference was of 0.5, that's like 2,000. And then I got all my seller paid closing costs covered by increasing the sales price as well, and I got some repairs covered. Total, I put $3,000 into this purchase. Okay. So I bought it for 385. My payout was 3. I only had to bring $3,000 to the table. What was so funny is my earnest money was like $6,000. So it's really fun to buy your first house and like get a check back at closing. I was like, this is great. But I think these are a couple things I just want to point out is I didn't have to use the full 6%, but this payout piece and changing that payout can dramatically shift what kind of cash you have to put into the transaction versus just bake it into the sales price. Now, what else got fun is my mortgage payment.
So this market is the sellers pay 6% for closing costs?
I got the same thing on a conventional in 2021. In the heat of the market, I got the sellers to pay my closing costs and increase my payout. I did it again. So I totally believe it's possible. You just have to present it the right way. And I got them to replace the garage door. So the mortgage on this at the time was like $2,275. I rented out Now that all the numbers are higher now, but I rented out the side that I was not living in for $1,650. And on my side, because each side was a 3-bed, 2-bath, on my side, I got a roommate for $600.
Oh, where's it gonna duplex?
This is duplex, yep. You can do the same thing on a single family home though. So this is the income I'm bringing in. This is the mortgage. I basically lived there for free. There were some other expenses, right? Like utilities and things. Fast forward, this property today, so I bought it in 2018. So if I use my nifty little compound interest calculator that I carry around on my phone, here's how this works. It says starting balance. I'm gonna put the starting balance, make this even more like, whoa, at 360,000. Because technically, would you agree that's actually really what I paid for it? It really is. It shows on paper 380, but all the stuff I got the seller to pay for, really I bought it for 360. Like we have to understand that ourselves to be able to communicate that to our clients, right? Okay. Annual rate of return, I'm just putting 4. I'm doing 0 additional like periodic additions. And duration, I'm gonna put 6 years because that's where it's been 6 years since I purchased it. You guys get that? Okay. Estimated investment, so the investment value, 4%, is 457,467. So 457, 467. 2 doors down, in not as nice as condition as mine, because I've done updates to mine over the years. It just sold for 550. So would you agree I could sell mine for 550? Great. So I moved out in 2021. No, 2020, November 2020. This thing's been cash flowing. One side is now rented for $2,000 a month. The other side is now an Airbnb for $3,200. Now my mortgage has gone up because of taxes and everything, but that thing still cash flows over $2,000 a month. Here's where I get really excited. So would you agree that my 4% ratio worked on the compound interest calculator? Okay.
Where is that located?
What?
Where is that located?
Where is it located? You just download the app.
No, I mean.
Oh, Hopkins. Okay, so annual rate of return, we're gonna keep it at 6. We're gonna just change it to 30 years. So I bought the property when I was 29. So when I am 59, it will be paid off. The estimated value at a 4% interest or a 4% compounding interest is $1,192,859. So when I am 59 years old, I truly believe this property will be paid off, will be worth over $1 million, and that doesn't even account for all the cash flow I'm going to have gotten since. Like this is the kind of stuff that I'm like jacked about, that I'm like, how are we not all doing this way more? And here's the thing, I will continue to move into properties and keep doing the house hacking until it doesn't make sense for me. I still desire to have a family and I'm not gonna move infants and all that crazy stuff. But I then bought the property that I currently live in Plymouth. Same thing, approached me, marketing price, $425. Actual sales price is $436 because I built closing costs into it, negotiated the commission. And I think on that one, I brought $6,000 maybe to the table. I bought that one, like I said, for $436 on paper. A year later, I had it assessed to do a HELOC. We were talking about this earlier. The HELOC a year later came in at $525 for the value of the property. I was able to pull $65,000 line of credit against it that I then used to go flip a house that I found off market. So when you can start to use these different tools, now this Hopkins house, I haven't touched any of the equity, and there's hundreds of thousands of dollars in it. The challenge is once you move out of them, they usually will only lend up to 70% of the current estimated value. So the percentage becomes less.
How old are you?
I'm 35.
How many houses in here?
Right now. I can tell you failure stories too, like I got the hoarder house in St. Louis Park. I plan on doing a BRRRR, stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. What they don't tell you when you do a BRRRR is that if interest rates go from 4.5% to 8%, your numbers are F. So that's what happened, so that's why I sold it. So, and I learned a lot about that property though, and what's been really interesting, investing will put your ego in check real fast. Because something always goes wrong. So like, as much as people say like real estate is a passive investment, it's not passive when you get a phone call in the middle of the night because the sewer line's backing up into someone's basement, right? Like that doesn't happen to her. It's not passive. But if we go back to what I was doing earlier here, I can control this investment. And I wouldn't even say I'm a control freak, but to me, this kind of stuff is way more important than my friends who work at Amazon and they just roll everything into like their stock options in retirement. So, cool. Thank you for hanging out with me today. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email is just Bethany@BethanyNelsonGroup.com. But I appreciate you all being here.
BethanyNelsonGroup.com.
Yep. But we can, Bethany@BethanyNelsonGroup.com. I actually purposely don't make cards. I'll tell you why. Because whenever and try to get one every day. So let's say I actually what happens is go out every night that I go out. So I'm sitting at a bar, let's get a table by myself, and I'm on my time. People always here I am at the bar. Well, I'm real estate every week. Every time. And then it's very easy. If they say, your card, you give them a card, and then it's in their green pocket, they're watching the thing. So that is the key. Reality is I never have them. And I never have them. So then I say, hey, I have to out one day, there's no one to go out. Then I can spend on people that are sitting there, and I have them.